Welcome aboard. Today's briefings is about decisions, not theory, not perfect seamanship, but real moments where the sea, the mission, and the margin for error all collide. From a lone sailor to a silent submarine to warships carrying the weight of nations, different vessels, but same truth, decisions matter. Now for part one. This is about John Caldwell, the author of the book Desperate Voyage, which I've just started. And last time we followed the journey of John Caldwell in Desperate Voyage, a solo sailor and a small boat, and a series of decisions that nearly ended his voyage more than once. Not dramatic failures, ordinary mistakes, but stacked together. And they're pretty bad. In fact, they're really embarrassing. First of all, the shoal. He ran aground on a sandy shoal, not rock, not a reef, sand, but still enough to stop him cold. That was the one issue. And when he aground, the tide goes out and he's on his beam ends, as he says, where the vessel is on its side. And when the tide arises, then water can go into the cockpit and flood the entire interior. Then the next one is his situation with the 16-foot tide. He anchored in a harbor that looked great for his night stop over, and he anchored in 2 fathoms of water, about 12 feet. It seemed extremely safe, but the tidal swing was 16 feet. The ocean didn't rise, the water left. And so that was bad because he not only, again, has his boat on its beam ends, but it gets really pretty bad as you'll read the episode. And then the next one that I read about last night was really unbelievable. He sees this huge shark and he decides to try and catch it so that he can take the jaws out for display purposes once he gets Australia. And so he actually hooks the shark. He pulled it into the cockpit for the jaws. And what happened? Cockpit destruction, major engine damage, and total chaos. The shark was so large that its ability to quiver and flip its tail in its throes of life did such major damage. You just wonder why he would ever consider doing what he did. So that was pretty bad. And then here's the kicker. He gets into a couple of situations where he goes overboard at least twice from what I've read so far. He's alone, he's offshore, and it's unbelievable that he was even able to rescue himself. For instance, he put trailing astern of his sailboat a 60-foot line just in case he needed it to clasp onto should he fall off the boat. And sure enough, he fell off the boat. He tries to clamp onto the line only to find that the line is riddled with slime and algae, and he can barely hold on. And he realizes that at the end of the line is a major hook. So he's being swept towards the end of the line and realizes his feet are just above the shark hook. And so he's able to recover from that. And I'm not going to give you any more details on that because that alone was a hairy incident. So now we're going to transition to an at the helm challenge number 1. Here's the situation. You are 20 miles offshore. You've just anchored in unfamiliar waters. The charts show you your depth, but there's no tidal data. Night is approaching. Do you stay anchored or do you move? And as you may remember, This episode is sponsored by two individuals called Pintle and Gudgeon. And Pintle says, depth tells you where you are, tide tells you what's coming. And Gudgeon says, choose wrong and the sea chooses for you. So think about that one. Now we're into part 2, and this covers the mini story of the USS Conqueror, which is shown on my screen. And so now we leave the open deck and go beneath the surface of the waves. Far beneath, the USS Conqueror operated in a world where visibility was zero, but awareness had to be absolute. The armament of this is 4 torpedo tubes, Mark 48 torpedoes, Harpoon anti-ship missiles, and advanced sonar systems. The mission. In the Cold War, information was everything. The Soviets deployed long towed array sonar behind their ships, which are floating ears in the ocean. And the United States wanted one. Not a copy, but the real thing. Conqueror was tasked with approaching an adversary vessel, locating the trailing sonar array, retrieving it, snipping it off, and leaving without detection. Picture it. No light, no horizon, only instruments and instinct. Every movement mattered. Too fast meant noise, too close meant detection, and too slow meant mission lost. So it's quite a story. So I think that you might want to even look further into this. It gets into a lot more details if you do a search on the web. So now let's transition again to our second at the helm challenge. You are submerged. You've located the target adversary. The sonar array is within reach, but closing the distance increases your acoustic signature. Do you move in or remain undetected? Pintle. Opportunity rarely waits. Gudgeon. Neither does detection. So part 3 gives us a new story. And this is about the heavy cruiser, the USS Salem, between the age of big gun warships and the silent dominance of submarines. And there stood ships like the USS Salem. The USS Salem had armament 9 8-inch main guns, rapid-fire automatic turrets, secondary guns, anti-aircraft batteries, and radar-detected fire control. The USS Salem represents the peak visible naval power, precision, firepower, control, a ship you could see and feel. But the ocean was already changing from what you could see to what you could not. And part 4 is connected to this vessel or sub, and that is the Admiral Graf Spee. The German vessel Admiral Graf Spee hunted alone early in World War II, a commerce raider, fast enough to escape, powerful enough to destroy. The armament that she carried was 6 11-inch main guns, 8 secondary guns, torpedo tubes, and anti-aircraft defenses. The encounter, she faced 3 British cruisers, individually weaker, but together they will force a decision. She was damaged, but not destroyed, but very much compromised. So the Graf Spee withdrew to port, And there, the final was made, not in battle, but in command. Rather than be captured, and rather than surrender intelligence, her captain scuttled the ship. And so this happened off of Buenos Aires, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a great to look at. Now, a third at the helm challenge. You command a powerful vessel. You are damaged but still capable. Enemy forces wait outside the harbor. Your crew is watching. Do you fight your way out or deny the enemy everything? Pintle says, a captain fights to win. And Gudgeon retorts, a captain decides what must not be lost. Now for a navigation term. This week, we're covering the term a transit fix. Transit is Transit, transit, and fix, Fix. A transit fix is a method of determining your position by aligning two known points as you pass between them. Precision through alignment. And now for part 6, the island countdown. And we're at island number 21, which is Nevis. Nevis is quiet waters, a really measured pace, and a place where a sailor can reset and think clearly again. If you've been to this island, let us know. We're always looking for information on the ports, the services, and the tourist attractions. Stay aware, stay disciplined, and stay at the helm. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week.